Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Good Witch Bad Bitch podcast. It's your girl, Luna. And today's episode, I wanted to do something a little bit different. It's something that's been really highly requested. So I'm going to talk about how I self published my poetry book. I did not expect so many people to ask this question, but it makes sense when you think about it because I had so many questions. Like, it was crazy because it's like, how do you do that? And you can read articles online, but it's like, do you know that that's all of it? Are they keeping things out? Is there like an affiliate code? I don't have a single damn affiliate code to share with you. This is truly just my experience self publishing, exactly what I did, what I loved, what I'd change, how much it cost me, and the secrets that you need to know to successfully self publish. So, if that is up your alley, then you're in the right place. So, a little bit about why I decided to self publish, I think would be a good place to start. So, the book I'm talking about, I have it right here with me. This is my book, Dark Moon, New Moon. It's a poetry book. If you do not know, oh my God, it's amazing. Go buy it. This is my one affiliate code. This is my one. This is my one like self insert. It's amazing. I worked really hard on it and it's beautiful and I love it. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I did, how this went from in my brain, in my noggin, to a physical, tangible thing. So beautiful. So, the reason I personally decided to self publish rather than pitch to publishing houses is because the genre I was doing was poetry. I do have a book idea, a romantasy book that I've been working on, and a witchy book that is kind of just living in my noggin right now. And both of those I do plan to, pitch to a publishing house. In my research, I kind of just saw that it's really hard to get poetry books published. And, a huge thing for me is like, this is poetry. Like, this is so much my art. And a lot of the poems, if you've read it, you know this, a lot of them are really like intense. Yeah, I feel like intense, a little bit, yeah, a little bit. Oh my God, do you guys hear my cat screaming? He is a fucking menace. But they're a little dark. I'll be so for real with you. In the Dark Moon portion, it is really poems of being in that deepest, darkest place that you can be. So it's super dark. And I didn't want to have, somebody telling me what I can and can't put in my book. Now, obviously, if I was doing a romantasy book, I really would want a lot of editing feedback, storyline help with an editor, with a publishing company. I'd be okay with that. But for me, for this, it was just like, A, poetry is not easy to pitch to publishers, and B, I didn't want anybody else kind of tainting my work, if that makes sense. So that's why I decided to self publish. There's so many reasons why somebody would want to self publish, and there's no hate in my sphere of the internet. Whether you publish via a traditional publishing house or you self-publish, it doesn't matter. Like, you are putting your work out there, you're published. It's really, I don't think, a big deal. But if you are wanting to self-publish, this is exactly what I did. So the first thing was creating the manuscript, creating the book. And I decided probably back in October of last year that I wanted to do this for real. And I don't really know why I decided to do it. Like, I really can't think of what happened that made me want to share these poems. I think it was probably a mixture of going through a really dark place in my life and sharing some of those poems and getting really nice feedback that they helped people feel less alone. And I was like, damn, why don't I just make a book? And I think that's how a lot of my creative endeavors go. It's typically, I'm just like, why not? Like, I can do anything. Like, let me do this, And that's why I do so many different things. But the first thing I had to do was to decide on a concept. In my case, it's poetry. In your case, it might be, the specifics of your story. If it's like a romantasy or whatever, you might want to do your world building and your character breakdowns. But for me, it was deciding on like what is this collection doing? What is the purpose? I didn't want to just throw, all my poems in a book with no theme or rhyme or reason. I wanted it to be a complete work in itself, while all the individual poems were also their own individual things. So that's what I did. I ended up deciding, I kind of had like a running notes app, a little note in my notes app about the different things it could be. And it all kind of came down to because where I was in my life. And in my case, like I just write poems when I'm really experiencing super high highs or super low lows. So it made a lot of sense to do what I did, which is, the first part is called Dark Moon, and the second part is called New Moon. And the Dark Moon is all about the darkest parts of the human psyche, the darkest points in your life, the sort of underworlds that we all go through. And the New Moon is about the rebirth. So you can think of it as like the Tower card in tarot and then the Star card in tarot. So I could have done that. I could have had a tower and then a star or whatever, but I wanted to go with Dark Moon, New Moon, and I think it really fit really well, like the vibe and everything. And so that's what I did. I decided on a concept. I wanted to be super clear about what I was doing, and yeah, just have like a really solid idea of what this is, who is this for, what is it doing for them, what is it doing for me, what do I want the readers to experience. And then after that, I did decide on the name. I can probably pull up my note. I had a couple of different names in my little like note that I had of, what I was working with, what I thought could be good. Dark Moon, New Moon, I really liked. Let me see. I had one idea where I was going to call it Girlhood, and there were going to be sections of love and heartbreak, beauty, spirit, darkness, hope, depth, and dream. And I was like, wait, that's way too many sections. I had one idea where it was going to be called Pisces Moon, and it was going to have dark moon, new moon, waxing moon, full moon, and waning. Again, I was like, that's a lot of sections, and a lot of my poems did tend to be about either the darkest darks or like the rebirth. And so just settling on dark moon, new moon was good. And I had a couple of, different ideas. I just kind of wrote it down, and that's what I would encourage you to do. But ended up going with dark moon, new moon, and feeling really good about it. And so that was kind of the creation of the concept, which was the first part for me. The second part that's important to do is the creation of the manuscript. Okay, so this is just when you're writing forever. I essentially just locked in. I was like, we're in writing mode. We're writing a book and we're writing it. And so that's what we're doing. So I already had some poems. I went back, I looked at all the poems I had previously written. I made a huge document of all the poems that I thought were good enough, with the knowledge that I would be editing any previous poems or any future poems I would write. And so I had this running document of all my poems, and I kept writing. I had a goal. This was spring of this year. So spring of 2024, I had said, I think probably January, I had said, by the end of March, I want to have 100 poems put together that fit this theme, that I think are good enough as they are, and after editing, I think they will be perfect and great and amazing. So that was my goal. So having a sort of goal, a timeline goal, was really helpful for me. If you're writing a larger book, you might want to do sections, like I'll have my first 20,000 words, by this day or whatever. But creating sections, creating timelines, I think is really helpful. It gives you a goal, and like it's not the end of the world if you don't meet that goal. For me, I had a little less than 100 poems, but I knew they were really good quality, and I knew I would rather have less poems of great quality than, 200 poems where half of them are shit, and so that was kind of like, for me, what I decided. Once I had all my poems written, I printed them out, a single page, printed them out, and I literally laid them all over the living room floor. I was literally sitting in the center of the living room with a like little border of poems printed out around me. And what I did first was I went through and I edited them. And so I just wanted to physically mark them up. It just felt right for me. Now, if you're writing a full-length book, you might want to edit digitally just to save the paper, a little bit. But for me, my book only ended up being like 90 something pages, so it wasn't a big deal. Um, so whether you're editing digitally or physically, that is the time to do so, obviously. And so for me, I laid them on the floor and I just marked them up. And when each of the poems were edited to my liking, I also did the same thing. I sat on the floor, I laid them out around me, and I physically arranged them because, again, I knew I had two sections. So the first thing I did was divide it between, is this a dark moon poem or is this a new moon poem? And so once I had them in their collections, each collection I laid out on the floor and I arranged them so there was some sort of cohesiveness between one poem to the next. So it was sort of like an adventure. The poems weren't just complete individuals. They were individuals, but they also, had their place in the collective of the book. And I did kind of have like a weird in between, I guess. The last poem of Dark Moon, so the first collection, was more prose-y. It was like a journal entry, and that was like the last thing before the new moon. And so for the dark moon, I wanted the dark moon to be a sort of descent into the darkness of the psyche. So as that's just kind of what I decided the vibe was. So as the poems went on, they went from like vaguely sad vaguely sad to like the fucking, darkest point that I had gotten to and written on paper. And then we had the sort of middle journal entry that was the bridge between the two worlds. And then once you enter the new moon, it was kind of like energetically, it's like the first point of seeing that little light, but also being still really deep in the darkness. And as the new moon progresses, the poems get more and more hopeful, more and more filled with joy and love and pleasure and things like that. So that was the concept I had, and how I got there was literally getting so physical, laying it on the floor, like I said, and physically arranging them. I looked like a maniac, but it was really fun, and yeah. So I did reach out to a couple friends for a few minor edits, but I had thought about getting an editor, but I talked to my brother-in-law who's he was like an English major, and he was kind of saying, poetry is kind of hard to get somebody to edit, like it is such an individual art. And so there were a few things where I advised him. I was like, hey, for a question on punctuation, because it can get really funky in poetry, and using I just had kind of decided like using proper punctuation in a lot of my poems, I think detracted from the visual of it, from the flow, I guess. And so what I ended up doing personally was just obviously like quotations and stuff, I used proper pronunciation or proper punctuation, and a few exclamation marks here and there. But as for periods, I only did that at the very end. So again, that's not that important, but this is the point where you'd get an editor, especially if you're doing a novel, which like I'm planning for my romantasy novel. I am totally going to hire an editor because there's just so much you can miss, and your work can always be better. And I think it's really important that you don't get too much into your hubris and think, oh, this is perfect, I'm whatever. The only reason I didn't get like a traditional editor was because it is hard to do that in poetry. So I asked for help on a few things, but overall did not really hire an editor. And then I created an author bio, which was like surprisingly kind of hard to do, and picked my author photo because this is going to be really important for you. anyone who's here visually watching on YouTube, the back of your book can have an author photo and your bio, so you're going to want that in your manuscript. You can also put it on the back of your book as well, which is what I did, because that's something I love doing. Like, I love it when I'm reading a book. I just want to visualize the author sometimes. So I really liked having the photo. You can make it a whole thing and take your author photo, like have a friend take it or get professional photos done. I had a really beautiful photo already from a photographer friend of mine, so I just used that. Um, yeah, and so, I mean, the next point, once you have your manuscript done, you know, you're gonna want to kind of have a publishing plan. This is when I said, okay, I'm gonna have a plan A and a plan B, because my issue is that I am an astrologer and I love using astrology for everything. And there was this very auspicious date for me personally, based on my natal chart, based on my profection year and everything, and my solar return. And June 4th of 2024 was like the day for me to do it, okay? Yet, like I was saying, I wanted to have 100 poems done by the end of March. So it was April, and I was like, it's like April or May. And I was like, can I do this by June 4th? That's what I really, really want. If I do June 4th, I want pre-orders to start May 21st-ish. You got to think about how long these things take, and that's something that was a bit of a surprise to me, and that is that Aries in me. I'm just like, just do it, But there are things you need to think about, and it will take some time. And if you hire a cover designer, they're going to need time. A manuscript editor, they're going to need time. All these people that are going to help you, they really need time. So you have to think about that. So I will say that this is like one of the things maybe I would have changed. It's not like I could have, because I really wanted that date, because it was very, very auspicious for me, astrologically speaking. And it just was kind of like, damn, I have to lock in. I have to buckle down and just get it done. But I did have a plan B, and that was to publish on Friday, June 21st, which was also a good time astrologically. And that way pre-order would start June 2nd. So I gave myself those 2 dates, and I think that was very important, because, you got to be flexible. And like, if you really stress yourself out on a really tight timeline, it's going to be stressful, and you want to enjoy the process. It is very stressful. Like, just to be so for real with you, when you're self-publishing, you are doing like everything. You can literally do everything. You can be the editor, you can be the cover designer, you can format it yourself. You can do literally every single thing. I didn't, and I was still stressed the fuck out. Okay, so like, just keep that in mind, that it is very stressful. And so putting unnecessary quick timelines on yourself, that's just gonna be more stress. And just give yourself plenty of time. Okay, give yourself plenty of time. It's better to have a gap of time, like you finished your book in January and you're not publishing it till June. Like, you know what, now you have so much time to do social media graphics and really promote your book and get the hype going. So it's much better to have downtime than to be on a tight schedule like I was. Okay, would not recommend. But I am ultimately happy I did it, and I did get to do my plan A, which is like unheard of in my house. Like, I'm very much that Aries energy. So oftentimes, I do set unrealistic expectations, but this one, it worked out for me. So yes, that's what I did. And had these plans going. I was working with plan A, and so I created my schedule for the next month or so on how I was going to get this shit done ASAP. I had the opportunity to really like focus all my energy and time on getting this book published. So, if you're working a full-time job also, it's going to be a lot harder. So just keep that in mind. But at this point, I had my schedule put together. I knew what I was doing. And next on my list of things to do was to figure out the book cover. Okay. So I had read some stuff online that was like, it's really important to hire an artist, because you can go onto Canva and you can do your own design, but the cover is so, so important. You don't want to, I mean, like, I'll be so honest with you guys. Sometimes I design things on Canva, and in the moment, I'm like, that's so good. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. And I really did not believe in my, I think I could have done something pretty good, right? Like, I think I could have done something pretty good, but I didn't want that. I didn't want pretty good. I felt like, especially with poetry, like the cover needs to be very evocative of the emotions that are going to be in the book. And so I was like, I'm gonna put my pride aside and hire somebody, and I'm a very, like, that's big for me because I'm a very, like, I can do it myself, I can do it all type person. So I really had to, you know, decide, I had to be real with myself. And so thankfully, one of my friends, Stephanie Kemler, who is an author, recommended Mitch Green to me. And Mitch Green is an artist, and he does really beautiful kind of gothic art for books. And I reached out to him, and he gave me a really great cover. So the cool thing about Mitch and a lot of artists is that they will have pre-drawn designs, or you can commission them to, design something from your mind or whatever. So I was trying to be very frugal because I really had no idea how my book was going to sell, and I did not have any savings for this book. So that's one thing I would do if I were you. If you really want to go all in, just plan better than I did, okay? It was very impromptu for me. Start a savings account where you can put money back so that you can splurge if you want to. Thankfully for me, Mitch had this cover pre-drawn, and it was perfect. I loved the duality. If you're not watching, there's kind of like these two women coming out of the same body, it almost appears. And from their skull, or from their head area, is a skull protruding with also flowers. And it has this very beautiful purple and black color theme. And I just thought it was so perfect because I knew I wanted something that was dark. I wanted something that was a bit uneasy, but also beautiful and gothic and represented the duality. And so this was just perfect. And also, like, the heart area of this person on the cover is shattered as if it was a porcelain doll. And to me, I was like, oh my God, that's perfect for this. So it really worked out. So I was able to purchase the pre-designed cover, and I loved the font. And so, we just put Dark Moon, New Moon, and then my name. And it was beautiful. Like, I love it. It's gorgeous. And I'm so happy about the cover. Like, it's probably one of my favorite things about the book. Like, I love the cover. I was really nervous because I am a very particular person when it comes to my work. And that is something I had to talk about in therapy. Like, as I was going through this process, I was like, am I a bitch? Like, am I being way too unnecessarily, like, nitpicky and, like, all these things? And my therapist was like, this is your art, this is your baby, like, you are allowed to be particular. And especially if you're hiring folks, like, you are hiring them to help you, and at the end of the day, you are the boss. And so that was really helpful for me, and I think maybe it would be for you guys to hear, because I think I do, like, I'm a very go with the flow person in normal life, but when it comes to my art and my work and what I'm putting out there, especially the things I'm putting out that people are going to pay for, I'm so particular, and I just want it to be really good. And especially, I'm a very visual person, so, like, I see the book in my head before it was created, and I needed it to be perfect, right? But I was also, at the same time, aware that perfection is unachievable, and so that there will be things that maybe don't work out the way I want them to. But I was so beyond pleased with Mitch Green, so I really, really highly recommend him, especially if you're looking for something gothic or a little hauntingly beautiful. Like, that's up his alley, and he was just so amazing to work with, so kind. And yeah, amazing. So I got the book cover done. Next on the list, you're going to want to hire a book formatter. You can do this yourself. I literally bought what was it? I bought like the Microsoft Word Pro because you needed, I don't know, it was so confusing. I really tried to do it myself. I watched videos, I read articles. I'm pretty technologically advanced. I'm really good at computers. I edit all my YouTube videos. Like, I'm pretty used to these things. Um, but it was just, it was so hard. And I literally ended up accidentally going past my free trial for Microsoft Word, and I paid like the $70 annual fee. I was like, oh no, because I never, actually used it. Um, but yeah, so I tried to format it, and essentially what I mean when I say format is like, you need to format the margins, you need to have like the contents page was freaking hard as shit, and you don't think it would be. Like, you really don't think it would be, but it was really hard. And, the margins are difficult because you actually need the margins to not be equal. The side of the page that is connected to the bind is going to be a slightly larger margin so that the poem is centered, because if it's an equal margin, part of that page gets really tucked into the bind. It's not going to be it's not going to be a centered, page. So it was just really, at this point in the process, I was like, fuck it. I'm so tired. Like, this is clearly not in the cards for me to format it myself. So I ended up hiring, I think I asked on Threads, and I'd asked folks, hey, like, writers of Threads, like, did you hire somebody for book formatting? Did you do it yourself? And somebody had commented that they had hired somebody named Robert Harrison from Seneca Author Services. I had to pull it up because I forgot. Seneca Author Services. And, that he was really nice and stuff. And so I was like, slay. This is not going to be a difficult formatting. It's a pretty small book overall, and it's really just getting it done. So I received his email, and I was in contact with him, and he was very nice and did such a good job. And so if you're watching the visual, you can see, or if you have your book at home, you can see the title has a sort of like design underneath it. So that is something he did that I really liked. And he was able to help me with the images. So if you want any internal images, he can help you with that. So I told him on the title page of the part 1, part 2, Dark Moon, New Moon, I wanted there to be like a moon image, okay? And I was like, I don't really care what it looks like. Because at this point I was like, get it done. I was so over the whole, like, I had spent so many hours trying to format it. I was like, whatever you have, like, I think it'll be perfect. So it's really beautiful. I really like the internal pages. So, if you have that, he can do that for you. The title page, or the, the ISBN page, that's something that was actually, I thought, pretty easy to format. You can kind of just Google, like, how to do a title or ISBN page, or you can just look at like a book you like, the copyright page, and you're just gonna follow the kind of thing. But yeah, and so he was amazing. Robert was amazing. I would recommend him. He was very, very kind. And the things I was very particular about and very like Capricorn boss about, he was very, very like, absolutely anything you want, whatever, whatever you want. Well, we can do it, and we can at least try it. And so he definitely put up with my very particular vision that I had for the book. So he was very, very kind, very amazing. So I will have him and Mitch Green's information in the show notes down below, because I really recommend them. And it's so nice having a recommendation because, it's just like, there's so many people out there. How do you even choose? And he was so nice because I almost didn't do an ebook, because I just, in my mind, I was like, who does ebooks? I'm so sorry. I know so many people have bought ebooks. So thank you to everyone who's bought an ebook. I did not realize how many people loved ebooks. So I almost didn't do an ebook. And he said, I don't know, Luna, like, I really think you should, like, I won't charge you any extra or whatever. Like, it's, why not? A lot of people like ebooks. I was like, okay, whatever you say. And I'm really, really glad I did, because, Yeah, a lot of people really fucking like ebooks, and I just didn't expect it, you know? But so I would really recommend doing an ebook version. Just make sure to reach out to your book cover designer and your formatter because they're going to need to do a different setup, okay? And like if you're designing your own book, I really don't know. I don't know the specific dimensions that I cannot help you on because again, you're going to want different dimensions for the ebook versus the physical book. You're also going to need to look up what size you want your book. You're going to need to do this before you work with the cover designer and the formatter. I went with the traditional 6 by 9. I think it might be 6.5 by 9.5. I'm not sure. But it is just like the traditional, like, this is the industry standard. I thought about going a little smaller, but I did end up going with the traditional 6 by 9. For this, when I was deciding, just pull out a tape measure and look at the books you have and just compare and contrast. So I had the cover design done, we've got the formatting done, the manuscript is good to go, the book is good to go. Now we need to get the ISBN and the barcode. You do need to get your ISBN actually as you're working with the formatter because they're going to need to put it on the copyright page. So if you look at your copyright page on any book, it will have the ISBN printed. So you're going to need to have this information for your formatter. So this was kind of confusing for me and a much larger cost than I had expected. So keep that in mind. I'm going to give you my final cost at the very end of this podcast, but this is good for the savings. Like when you have savings, like this will help you a lot because I did not expect, who knows, that the ISBN is so expensive. So something to note is that you can approach this one of two ways depending on how you're wanting to publish. So if you just want to publish on Amazon, this is the cheaper option. They will include an ISBN and a barcode. Okay, so it's cheaper. I want to say it's free if you just do KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. And that's what you're going to want to go on, okay? So you're going to want to go to KDP, kdp.com. Kindle Direct Publishing is what it stands for. And this is how you get your book on Amazon. They're going to have you fill out all your information. They're going to have you upload the manuscript, the book title, how many pages it is, your author bio, everything like that. This is where you're uploading the information. This is also where you're going to order your author copies. So if you just want to put your book on Amazon, this is all you need to do. They will include that ISBN and the barcode. However, if you want your book at Barnes & Noble, if you want it to be sold on more places than just Amazon, you're gonna want to also go through something like Ingram Spark, which is what I used. So Ingram Spark is where a lot of booksellers purchase your book through. So like if you have a local bookstore, they can order book copies through Ingram Spark. I don't think they like to do it through KDP. Okay, so I knew personally I wanted to have that option. This is the more expensive option, just so you know. So because you're going to be publishing through KDP and Ingram Spark, if you go about this option, you're going to need to buy your own ISBN and barcode. The reason is because if Amazon gives you an ISBN and barcode, it's going to be different than the one you're going to need for Ingram Spark. So even though the Amazon one's free, if you take them up on that offer and then you get a ISBN for Ingram Spark, you're going to have two different ISBNs. It's going to look a little weird, and like when you go to search your book, there's going to be two different versions and it's going to just be kind of confusing. I did not want to do that. I wanted it to be very cohesive. So I went to myidentifiers.com, and this is where you're going to find the place to buy your barcode and ISBN. Girl, it was $150. And that might not be a lot to you, but it was a lot more than I expected. In my mind, I'm like, ISBN $5. Like, what do you mean? What are you charging me for? So it was $150. It was $25 for the barcode and $125 for the ISBN. Now, I'll leave a link down below to get them. It's crazy. They were like, buy 10 ISBNs, get a discount. I was like, 10? I do not need 10. So just keep that in mind. A little expensive, but you buy it once, it's fine. You know what I'm saying? You will have to enter your price. So at this point, you should know how much you want to price your book, because that's going to go on your barcode on the very back. It'll have your ISBN, it'll have your price. So you'll just want to have that set up. And when you get on Ingram Spark, it's going to be very similar. You're going to enter all your information. And now, if you do what I did, you'll have two different publishing places, essentially. So I ordered author copies from both because I wanted to see the difference. And I chose my book with a glossy cover. Sometimes I wonder if matte would have been better. I really don't know because I never tried a matte one. There's a glare a lot of times and you can kind of see fingerprints and stuff, which irritates me. But I worry the matte would have dulled the black color. And so, I don't know. You'll also be able to choose the page color when you're in this KDP Ingram Spark situation. You'll be able to choose if you want white, if you want like more of like a beigey. You'll be able to choose color or not color, things like that. So you can really have fun customizing it. I didn't want to go too crazy. I felt like the white looked really nice, so I went with the white, and the glossy cover is what I chose. So I ordered from both KDP, so the Amazon place, and Ingram Spark. And so I ordered like 5 author No, at this point I only ordered 1 of each because I wanted to see how different they were. It seemed to me it was very marginally different, but I felt like the Amazon ones, the KDP, were slightly higher quality. So keep that in mind. I think if I were doing it again, this is hard because this is one of the ones where I'm not sure on my thoughts. I think it is totally fine to just do the KDP. I don't know. Honestly, looking at my statistics, like 95% of the books I sell are through KDP, are through Amazon. So, you know, I paid a lot more to have that duality. However, I haven't like reached out to bookstores and had them purchased by my local bookstores or anything. So, you know, I haven't taken advantage of all the perks of working with another publisher like Ingram Spark. But I think you can super get away with just publishing on Amazon is my final answer. Like, yeah, I think you'll save money. And I think for me, like, that's where, like, I know there's some ethical concerns too of like, do we want to support Bezos? Like, you know, and so you might have some customers who don't purchase off Amazon. And in that case, you will want to have a Barnes & Noble option or a local bookstore option. Or, you know, you buy your copies and like I do, I sign them and I offer them on my website. So there's that too, right? It's really a personal thing. So you're just going to have to kind of think about what you want to do. And yeah, at this point in the book publishing process, you're essentially done. You're going to want to set a pre-sale date. I really wanted to do that just to continue the hype, to get the vibes going. Like, I think pre-sale is very fun. And so once I was at this point, this is when you want to start really hyping your book, okay? I was really lucky in that I already have a platform. I already have people who know me and who like my vibe and the art that I create. So that, you know, already makes it so much easier for me. If you don't really have a platform, you're going to want to even like double down more on marketing your book. So what I did and what I really recommend doing was posting like all of your progress, because people love that. Like, I love it when I get to see like an author I like or somebody I like posting in their editing process. Like, I can think of one content creator off the top of my head who has been talking about a book she's been writing for like over a year, and I'm just like, the day it's available, like, you know, because it's been in my mind for over a year. It's something I know I'm excited about and I can't wait to read. So seeing her post her progress, it's like, it's just reminding me like, oh, this is gonna happen, you know? So really do not be afraid to share your progress. Like I shared reels and TikToks of me editing, of me formatting, putting my books or my pages in order, like the whole process I documented. Even when I got my ISBN and there my angel number was in it, I posted that because it's like you just want to share it with like these people that, you know, like your work. So um share every part of this process. For me, I shared a couple of poems online as well, and I've continued this. Obviously, with a poetry book, people are going to want to know what your writing style is, what your poems are like. So definitely have that available, especially if it's a poem thing. Um, if it is like a novel, you know, I have Stephanie Kemler. I highly recommend following her because she does the cutest stuff. She might post fan art of her characters or like mood boards or what my character would listen to or whatever, you know? So having it to where, you know, whatever it is, whatever you're writing, sharing little snippets with your audience, they just need to know, you know, they want to see what it's about. So, you know, and especially like once you get your book physical, share that bitch. Oh my God, I posted so many photos because I was so excited. So share the first look, like make it a situation, make it a whole thing. And another thing that I did that I really liked that was so fun and that I think really hyped people up was that I did a live Instagram launch party. So I didn't do like an in-person launch party. I did one on Instagram live. You could do this on YouTube, Instagram. You could do a local live book launch party with a local bookstore that you want to work with. But for me, Instagram Live, it was very, again, like everything I do, it was very impromptu. So I like made a cake. Oh my God, guys, I made a cake. It's so funny. And just to celebrate book birthday. And I did this like midnight release party, but I did it for East Coast time because I wasn't sure, is the book going to be available midnight my time, midnight the audience's time? I'm still not sure. I think it went live at least, I don't know, it was at least 11 p.m. Eastern, which I'm Central. So, you know, it went live a lot earlier than I expected. So I was able to, you know, do this live launch party and still get to bed not too late. But that was really fun because, you know, it gave me a space to talk about my book, to thank the people in the chat who have already purchased the book and like really show my gratitude for their support and, you know, have people be so excited and like, oh my God, I just bought the book, like I just got it, I can't wait for it. Or some people at this point, you know, had gotten the ebook and had already started reading. So it was really crazy. And I think by the end of the first day, someone had already read it because they had gotten an ebook. And so, you know, as people share, you know, that they've got it or whatever, just share the photos, like really share the whole process, share the wins, share the reviews. I made like a little collage of all the reviews I got and put it on Instagram to show people like, hey, this is what people are saying, you know, just don't be afraid to put it out there, right? So yeah, looking back, the things I'd change, I would mostly just give myself more time. So if I was in your shoes, if you're thinking about this, don't create an unnecessarily tight schedule. If you want to work with astrology like I did, that's beautiful. Just plan it out a little better than I did. Like give yourself more time. And yeah, if you're wanting to save money, I don't know, maybe do KDP, like just KDP and not Ingram, but I also understand like the ethical concerns, like some people do not like to shop Amazon and that's okay. And I do think having an option for them is really important. So I think the main thing would just be more time, not stressing yourself out because it's already going to be a very stressful process as it is. So just give yourself more time and make it fun and share everything. Like share the whole process online. So now's the time for me to tell you how much everything cost, okay? So I'm going to share the breakdown and then the total cost with you. So if you have any guesses, go ahead and get that guess in your mind. I tried to be as frugal as I could. This does not include the millions of coffees I bought while editing, so it probably should. But overall cost. The cover design was $70. That was the cheapest. That was the pre-designed cover, okay? So if you wanted to commission, it's going to be more. $70 for the cover design. $65 for the formatting, okay? The ISBN was $125. The barcode was $25. I then ordered my author copies, which were the ones that you might have seen in videos, like had a little horizontal band around the front that said not for resale. It was essentially just for me to make sure it printed okay, the cover looked good, everything was right. So $12.66 I spent on the author copies. Then I wanted to buy a bunch of perfect copies to have on hand for promotion, for Instagram videos, for events, and to sign and to sell. And so I spent $52.35 on that first month. So the total cost was $350.01. So it was definitely like a chunk of change for sure, okay? So, and that's not including the hours spent, like, the coffees bought, like the cake mix, things like that. This is really just what it cost, what it took me. And yeah, I also didn't include the accidental $70 annual fucking subscription that I accidentally bought to the, I don't know, like Pro Microsoft Word or whatever. It's crazy. But yeah, that's how much it costs. That is what I did. That is what I would change, what I loved, and all the secrets of how I successfully self-published this book. So yeah, feel free to leave any comments if you have any questions, anything I didn't answer. I would love to clarify anything, and I will have all those links down below if you are interested. Other than that, thank you guys so much for listening today. I hope that was helpful. I hope that encouraged you on your self-publishing journey, and I can't wait to read all the stuff you guys put out there. So if you're working on something, feel free to pop that in the comments. Like, I would love to see what you guys are working on. So thank you all so much for listening, for watching, and I will see you all next time. Hey, are you still here? Oh my gosh. Well, if you love this podcast as much as I think you do, go ahead and leave a review, whether that's on Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Reviews help us out so much. They let other people know that you give it your 5-star rating, and it also just sends us so much good energy. So definitely do that. And if you're craving more of this good witch, bad bitch energy, you know where to find me at LunaSeranova on all platforms. You can get a tarot reading, astrology reading. You can join my astrology academy, or you can just follow me on YouTube for more free good vibes. So all my links will be down below. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, follow, and leave a little review. Love you all so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.